In the early hours of June 18th, 1982, a quiet mist clung to the Thames as London began to stir awake. Along Blackfriars Bridge, a humble postal clerk was making his way to work. But this morning was different. As he approached the center of the bridge, something caught his eye. A dark shape hanging beneath the arches. Curiosity turned to horror as he stepped closer, realizing it was a man's body, suspended by the neck from scaffolding. The man's hands were bound, pockets weighed down with bricks, a grotesque detail that sent a shiver down his spine. He didn't know who the man was, but he sensed that this was no ordinary tragedy. The discovery would soon shock the world. The man found was Roberto Calvi, the Italian banker dubbed God's banker, due to his close ties with the Vatican. What appeared to be just a case of a man taking his own life at first glance would soon unravel into one of the most complex and sinister mysteries of the 20th century. A tale of financial scandals, political intrigue, and the dark intersections of power, crime, and secret societies. This is the Dark History Project. Before we get started, please take a moment to subscribe and hit that like button. Thank you. Roberto Calvi was born on April 13, 1920, in Milan, Italy, into a modest family that instilled in him a strong work ethic and ambition. From a young age, Calvi demonstrated an affinity for numbers and finance, traits that would shape his future. He pursued a degree in economics, where he quickly stood out for his sharp mind and keen understanding of financial systems. After completing his education, Calvi joined the Banca Commerciale Italiana, one of Italy's most prominent banks at the time. It was here that his career in banking truly began, as he immersed himself in the intricacies of finance and honed his skills in managing complex financial operations. In the 1950s, Calvi's career took a pivotal turn when he joined Banco Ambrosiano, a relatively small institution at the time. His financial acumen and aggressive strategies quickly transformed the bank into a powerful entity, eventually leading him to the position of chairman. Little did anyone know, this rise to power would entangle him in a web of corruption, intrigue, and ultimately his mysterious demise. What starts all of this is the Banco Ambrosiano scandal, one of the most infamous financial scandals of the 20th century. The origins of this scandal trace back to Banco Ambrosiano's involvement in questionable financial activities, including extensive offshore operations. The scandal was discovered when the bank's financial instability became apparent. In 1982, auditors found a massive hole in the Banco Ambrosiano's account. Over $1.3 billion was unaccounted for, about $4.5 billion in today's money. The situation escalated when Roberto Calvi was found dead in London under mysterious circumstances. While his death was initially ruled that he took his own life, later investigations suggested foul play. Further investigations revealed that the Vatican Bank, officially known as the Institute for Works of Religion, or IOR, had a significant role in the scandal. The Vatican had provided letters of credit for the questionable loans, although it later denied full responsibility for the bank's collapse. The exposure of these illicit activities led to the collapse of Banco Ambrosiano, several arrests, and a major financial reputational crisis for the Vatican, shaking the foundations of both Italian banking and the Catholic Church. The discovery of his body hanging from a bridge in London sent shockwaves through all of Europe. Calvi was not just another banker, he was at the center of a financial empire with deep connections to the Vatican, and, as some would later allege, to secret societies and criminal organizations. But as the news spread, so did the initial conclusions drawn by the authorities. The scene appeared that this was just another case of a man taking his own life. After all, Calvi had been under intense pressure. Banco Ambrosiano was facing collapse and he was being investigated for massive financial irregularities. But as investigators began to piece together the events leading up to Calvi's death, things started to feel off. Let's consider the circumstances. Calvi was found with bricks in his pockets, something that could be interpreted as a symbolic act or a way to send a message to those close to him, but also as a method to ensure he drowned quickly. Yet, there was no water in his lungs, which would be expected if he had jumped or been pushed into the Thames. Additionally, the position of his body and the way it was found hanging from the bridge, not floating in the river, raised further doubts. Forensic analysis would later reveal even more inconsistencies. Experts examined the marks on Calvi's neck, the state of his hands, and the condition of the rope. There were no signs that he had climbed down to the position where his body was found. But who would have had a reason to want Roberto Calvi gone, and why? That's the question. This is where the theories come in, and they are as chilling as they are varied. There are theories from the Mafia to secret Masonic lodges, the Vatican, and secret government agencies. These seem to be the types of enemies you can make when you are a banker at the levels Calvi was at. To me, the most prominent theory is the one involving the Mafia, which brings in the ties to the Vatican and the Masonic lodge as well. And the reason is simple. He lost money for some prominent Mafia members, and this was payback. In the early 90s, a Mafia member confessed that there was a hit ordered on Calvi because of money he lost in a money laundering operation at Banco Ambrosiano. Next is where the Masonic Lodge comes in. The hit was ordered by a man called Giuseppe Calo and Lucio Gelli. This last one was not just a criminal, but also the venerable master of the clandestine Masonic Lodge Propaganda Do, or P2. On top of that, Lucio Gelli volunteered for Mussolini and even cooperated with Nazi Germany, serving as a liaison to the Italian government earlier in his life. The so-called actual suspects were found dead later. The P2 Lodge is a whole episode. They were not just involved with this banking scandal, but also with other banking scandals, with the disappearance of journalists, derailing criminal investigations, and even affiliations with the CIA. In the mid-2000s, authorities informed 5 people, including Lucio Gelli, that they were under investigation for Calvi's demise. The indictment alleges that the 5 conspired to have Calvi eliminated, to prevent him from talking or blackmailing them about their dealings with the bank or any of the money laundering activities that not only included prominent members of the Italian Mafia, but also those involved with the P2 Lodge, the Vatican Bank, or any of the organizations that had money in Banco Ambrosiano. Eventually, these 5 people who were accused of Calvi's demise were acquitted one by one. However, some were given prison sentences for other crimes. As the years have passed, investigations into Roberto Calvi's death have gone through various phases. The initial ruling has been discredited, and the case remains an open wound in both Italian and international history. What we do know is that Roberto Calvi was a man at the nexus of power, money, and secrecy, a dangerous combination that may have ultimately cost him his life. Thank you for being with us for this episode of the Dark History Project. Please help us out by liking this video, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. We're available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and everywhere else you can listen to podcasts. We hope you've enjoyed it, and our next episode will come out soon. See you then.